these two dogs were about to commit a terrible crime, and at some point, it looked like they were actually going to get away with it. For hours, they barricaded themselves in this house and stared down the police while they committed heinous crimes that led to the manifest injury of this young woman here. You will think that I'm talking about people, right? But that's because their crimes were so bad. So, first of all, I love dogs. Don't come for me. They can be fun, smart, and loving, and loyal. But I tell you, I will never put the life of any dog above that of a human. If a dog is attacking you and your life is in grave danger, 100% of the time, I am going to unfortunately put that dog down, especially if I happen to be a public official that is tasked with the job of keeping the public safe. Well, that's unless you are Ramsay Bolton from the Game of Thrones and you have been justifiably sentenced to death by a dog. I hate that guy. Anyways, I understand that not everybody will see it like I just said it, but it is what it is. Now look at this beautiful girl. Her name is Jacqueline, and just like me, and probably you too, she loves dogs. She wanted to be around them so much that she decided to build a side career out of doing just that. She started a dog-sitting job all the while that she was still a student of the University of Texas, and she was good at it. But then, one day, she was invited to the house of this couple, Justin and Ashley Bishop, to dog-sit these two monsters. So there is this German Shepherd mixed breed called Lucy and this Pit Bull mixed breed called Bender. Unfortunately for Jacqueline, she didn't know that these two animals were both batshit crazy wannabe murderers. But the Bishops, of course they didn't think so. They thought their poochies were sweet. Maybe just a little mental, but mostly sweet. Yet, just to be on the safe side, they put a sign on their front door. A sign that read, "Crazy dogs! Please don't knock or ring the bell. Call or text instead. Please leave packages by the door." Now, Jackie's birthday was coming up and she was going to be turning 22. And one day to it, she just felt, let me do just this one more job. So when the Bishops called for her services, she answered and showed up at their door to dog sit those two monsters. But she didn't know at that time what kind of fire that she was playing with. When she got to the house, she wasn't too bothered by the sign because she kind of knew dogs, or so she thought. I mean, she'd been to that house once before and everything went just fine. But she did factor that then the Bishops had been around, not like today when she would have to work with those dogs all by herself. So she inserted the key and pulled the lever. As soon as the door swung open, the two backing dogs charged at her like demons from hell and knocked her off her feet. Bam! She landed sprawled on the floor. And guys, that is the last position you want to be when under attack by a canine. Before she could regain her composure, they clamped their jaws around her face and started dragging her farther into the house. Now she started screaming, but nobody was around, and her screams fell on no important ears, only these ones. And then the bloodbath began. The dogs treated her like game and started tearing at her from every angle and especially the face. She tried to fight them off, but she wasn't a trained fighter, and even if she was, these were two fully grown psychopathic animals. She didn't stand a snowball's chance in hell, but she kept screaming. The monsters tore at her clothing until she was completely naked, and then the dogs tore into her flesh, biting and dragging her all around the house like an oversized rat doll. It was a gruesome scene, the stuff that nightmares and horror movies are made of. And so, what do you think? That Jacqueline was beaten like 30 times? 100 times? 250 times?
What?
What? I can only imagine what she must have gone through. But no. 400 times? Still no. What? Jacqueline was beaten 800 times. The dogs tore off her lips and ate them. Please, what kind of a domestic dog tears off human flesh and eats it? And then they tore off her ears and her nose and cheeks and practically everything on her face below their eyes. Man, it was a horror show, I know. But she was wise and present-minded enough to protect her neck with her bleeding hands. And no matter how much the dogs tried, and they did try to get to that neck, because they do it by instinct, she just protected her neck. Eventually, they lost interest in that part and concentrated on her face and other body parts. Jackie was in big trouble, and she started to wonder if she was even going to survive. Now, because the dogs had launched at her as soon as she opened the door, that is, before she even had the chance to close it back behind her, that right there was a saving grace. Now, an automatic home security alarm system was triggered, and before long, police and other responders were racing towards the residence. They arrived to a scene that clearly spelled carnage, because look, there were blood smeared over all the floors, indicating that someone had been brutally knocked to the ground and dragged farther away into the house. And the dogs remained irate. They were barking uncontrollably, and the cops could see that they were snapping at something and clearly attacking someone inside. By this time, Jackie's voice had become so weak, but she kept fighting to keep herself from slipping into unconsciousness. So the police called out to her, and she answered, but feebly. She had grown very weak. Now, every time one of the cops approached the front door, the dogs stared them down and maintained complete control over the territory because it was theirs. Jacqueline was their victim, and they were intent on maintaining control over that space and their victim. And then, the unbelievable thing happened. The police backed down. No! Even though they were armed with rifles and shotguns, and even though they were clearly not in any doubt that a young woman was being seriously mauled within the house by those dogs, and even though the assault was clearly still ongoing, and they could see firsthand all the blood that was smeared on the floors and all the walls and even on those same dogs, yet they stood down for 37 minutes. Now, why the police waited outside with their guns and their training, I don't know. And I don't think I ever will. Was it because they didn't want to hurt the dogs? Were they afraid for their own lives? Were they afraid of the owners of the dogs? I don't know. You figure it out, because I can't. If he had been a man beating a woman to death with blood splashes on all the walls and floors, would they have waited outside like that? Were those dogs' lives somehow more important for some reason? Just a lot of questions. Still, they dilly-dallied outside while the young woman was being eaten alive. Eventually, after almost an hour, the police summoned the courage and eventually arrested the dogs. Only then did they gain access to Jacqueline, and only then was she rushed to the hospital. Of course, by this time she was barely alive and clearly without a face. She had to be resuscitated several times on the operating table. And then she was put into a medically induced coma for about a week. She was described as being permanently and catastrophically disfigured. And this was her shortly after the attack. But Jacqueline is a fighter. While she does not minimize the horrors of that day, she remains hopeful about her future. She went through years of constructive surgeries, and she still has quite a few more to go in the years ahead. And one of her major inspirations for not giving up on anything is her boyfriend, Nathan. He also had his own struggles with cancer just a few years back. And as Jackie had been there, encouraging him every step of the way while he fought, he repaid her the good favors in exactly the same ways as well. He stood by her side like an immovable rock and was with her through all those most difficult times of her life. She says she's grateful to be alive and that she still loves dogs and wants to work with them in the future. Ha! What? That's a very courageous thing to say. A lot more than most would have been able to verbalize. Eventually, a Texas judge sentenced the two offending poochies to kick the bucket by lethal injection. And that's it, folks. Life is not fair. No! But there is always a lesson to be learned. For this one, I'll say, when a dog owner tells you, "Oh, it's fine, my dog is harmless. It's just very playful, it wouldn't hurt a fly," but you see teeth exposed, don't believe them until you have carefully tested the dog by yourself and confirmed. Your life may depend on it. So guys, tell me if you find any other lessons of note in this story. Now you take care and have a good one. But subscribe.